Do you want to learn how to attract men, seduce them, and never argue with them? Then this video is for you. Stay until the end and I'll show you how.
Subscribe only if you want to learn how to dominate men without fighting and keep them under control. Imagine waking up every day with an unshakable sense of calm, an inner stillness so profound that nothing, no person, no situation, no unexpected twist of fate, can shake you. You move through life with clarity, knowing that while you cannot control what happens around you, you have absolute power over how you respond. This is not about pretending that difficulties do not exist, nor is it about suppressing emotions. It is about something far more powerful. The ability to stand firm in the face of chaos, to remain steady while the world shifts unpredictably, and to embody a kind of strength that is unbreakable, not because life is easy, but because you have developed the wisdom and discipline to navigate it with grace. Most people live in constant reaction to the world. They are like a small boat on the ocean, thrown in every direction by the waves of circumstance. Things go well, they feel happy. Things go wrong, they feel miserable. They let other people's words dictate their mood, let fleeting frustrations turn into days of resentment, and allow temporary setbacks to consume them with anxiety and doubt. They believe that peace is something that must be found outside of themselves, that it will come once everything falls into place. The perfect job, the perfect partner, the perfect life. But this is an illusion. There will always be something unexpected, always something that does not go according to plan, always someone whose actions could hurt or disappoint. If your happiness depends on controlling the uncontrollable, you will never be free. Subscribe only if you want to learn how to dominate men without fighting and keep them under control. A truly powerful person is not one who has manipulated the world to fit their desires, but one who has mastered their own mind. Power is not found in forcing life to be a certain way. It is found in the ability to remain calm no matter how life unfolds. This does not mean passivity. It does not mean you do not take action or strive for what you want. It means that your inner state is not dictated by the things you cannot control. It means that you do not hand over your peace to external forces. It means that you do not allow others to determine how you feel. There is immense freedom in this. Imagine never again being emotionally hijacked by someone's bad attitude. Imagine never wasting another second of your life in pointless arguments. Imagine facing difficulties with a mind so sharp and steady that even when the worst happens, you remain in control, responding with wisdom rather than reacting with impulse. Anger is one of the greatest traps. It disguises itself as strength, making you believe that by lashing out, by proving a point, by making your feelings known, you are in control. But nothing could be further from the truth. The moment anger takes over, you are no longer in control. You are being controlled. It hijacks your clarity, pushes you to say things you later regret, damages relationships, and leaves you exhausted. It is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to suffer. It burns hot and fast, leaving destruction in its wake, but the one who suffers most is always the one who carries it. There is nothing impressive about losing your temper. True strength is the ability to remain calm in moments where others would explode. It is the ability to choose your response rather than be driven by impulse. When you are ruled by anger, you are weak because anyone can provoke you. When you master your emotions, you become untouchable because nothing external can dictate your state of mind. Subscribe only if you want to learn how to dominate men without fighting and keep them under control. Fear is another great illusion. It makes you believe that danger is everywhere, that you must worry in order to protect yourself. That anxiety is a necessary part of being prepared. But fear often lies. It tells you stories about worst-case scenarios that may never happen. It makes you hesitate when action is needed and causes you to avoid challenges that would make you stronger. It is not the absence of fear that makes one powerful. It is the ability to face it without being controlled by it. When you understand that fear is only a thought, only a feeling, only a momentary signal from the mind rather than an absolute truth, you reclaim your power. You see it, acknowledge it, but do not let it dictate your actions. This is how you build courage, by stepping forward despite discomfort, by refusing to let fear shrink your life. Resentment is another chain that keeps people trapped. Someone wrongs them, and instead of letting it go, they carry the weight of that anger for months, years, even decades. They replay the event in their mind, fueling their own suffering long after the actual moment has passed. They believe that by holding on to resentment, they are punishing the other person, but in truth, they are only punishing themselves. The Stoics understood that no one can harm you more than your own thoughts if you let them. If someone insults you, the pain does not come from their words. It comes from your interpretation of them, from your choice to take offense. If someone betrays you, the pain lasts only as long as you hold on to it. Forgiveness is not for the other person. It is for yourself. It is the decision to free yourself from unnecessary suffering. It is not about condoning harmful actions. It is about refusing to let them control your peace. The ability to let go, to move forward without being weighed down by the past, is one of the most powerful skills a person can develop. Subscribe only if you want to learn how to dominate men without fighting and keep them under control. No one is born with this level of control. It is built, cultivated, practiced. Every time you choose to pause instead of reacting impulsively, you strengthen your mind. Every time you decide not to engage in drama, you reclaim energy that would have been wasted. Every time you let go of an unnecessary grudge, you lighten your own burden. Mastery of the self is a lifelong practice, but every step you take toward it makes you stronger, calmer, and freer. It is not about perfection, it is about progress. There will be moments when you slip, when frustration gets the best of you, when old habits try to resurface. But the difference between an ordinary person and one who has embraced this path is that the latter does not dwell in those moments. They recognize the mistake, learn from it, and move forward with even greater clarity. Subscribe only if you want to master the art of controlling men without conflict and keeping them under your influence. Imagine waking up each morning with an unwavering sense of tranquility, an inner calm so profound that no external event, no unpredictable circumstance, no word spoken in anger, nor the unexpected turns of fate have the ability to disturb you. You move through the world with a presence so firm that even in the face of uncertainty, you remain collected. You are no longer a puppet to the whims of others, no longer at the mercy of fleeting emotions, no longer reacting impulsively to every inconvenience. Instead, you have cultivated an internal fortress, a mind so disciplined that no storm can shake its foundation, a character so refined that no provocation can tempt it into unnecessary struggle. This is not a theoretical ideal but a practice, a skill, a way of existing that allows you to experience life fully without being overwhelmed by it. Most people live as if they are leaves caught in the wind, tossed unpredictably by the movements of the world around them. When things go their way, they feel elation, confidence, and a sense of security. When adversity strikes, they fall into despair, frustration, and emotional turmoil. Their well-being is dictated by forces outside of them, whether they receive praise or criticism, whether they are met with kindness or rudeness, whether their plans unfold smoothly or collapse unexpectedly. They seek peace and control, believing that if they can manipulate their environment, if they can ensure that others act according to their expectations, if they can eliminate uncertainty, then they will finally achieve lasting contentment. But this is an illusion. The world is unpredictable. People are flawed and inconsistent. Events unfold in ways that no one can perfectly anticipate. If your serenity depends on external conditions aligning with your desires, you will forever be a prisoner to the uncontrollable. Subscribe only if you want to master the art of controlling men without conflict and keeping them under your influence. True strength does not come from forcing life to obey your wishes. It arises from the ability to navigate life as it is, with clarity, grace, and resilience. It is the understanding that while you cannot dictate what happens, you can always dictate how you respond. The ultimate power is not in shaping the world but in shaping yourself. When you internalize this truth, you become untouchable, not because difficulties cease to exist, but because they lose their ability to control you. You begin to recognize that hardship is inevitable, but suffering is often a choice. Pain may be unavoidable, but your reaction to it determines whether it is a momentary challenge or a prolonged burden. There is immense liberation in realizing that no one has the power to disturb your peace unless you allow it. Insults are merely words. Their impact is determined by whether you choose to take offense. Betrayal is an action. Its ability to wound you depends on whether you dwell in resentment or free yourself through indifference. Failure is an event. Its meaning is shaped by whether you see it as an end or a lesson. The moment you stop allowing external forces to dictate your emotional state, you reclaim an autonomy that most people never experience. You are no longer a slave to circumstances. You are no longer at the mercy of others' moods, attitudes, or decisions. You step into a level of self-possession that makes you impervious to petty conflicts, immune to unnecessary suffering, and anchored in a peace that remains unshaken no matter what unfolds around you. Subscribe only if you want to master the art of controlling men without conflict and keeping them under your influence. Anger is one of the greatest deceivers. It disguises itself as power, making you feel strong in the moment, convincing you that your outburst is justified, that your reaction is necessary to prove your worth. But in truth, anger is a loss of control. It is a force that clouds your judgment, narrows your perspective, and binds you to impulse rather than reason. It is like setting fire to your own home in an attempt to chase out a single intruder. It may provide an immediate sense of satisfaction, but it leaves destruction in its wake. Every time you allow anger to dictate your actions, you surrender control of yourself. You give power to the person or situation that triggered you. True strength is not found in the ability to retaliate. It is found in the ability to remain composed. When others lash out, when they provoke, when they seek to pull you into their chaos, the most powerful response is not engagement but restraint. Nothing unsettles an adversary more than a calm, unbothered mind. The ability to walk away from conflict, to disengage from drama, to choose stillness over reaction is not weakness. It is mastery. Fear is another illusion that keeps people trapped. It whispers worst-case scenarios into their minds, making them believe that danger is ever present, that caution is synonymous with hesitation, that avoidance is the safest route. But fear is often unfounded. It thrives in uncertainty, growing in proportion to the attention you give it. The more you indulge it, the more it takes root, influencing your decisions, dictating your actions, preventing you from stepping forward when you should. Fear is not eliminated by waiting until you no longer feel it. It is eliminated by facing it despite its presence. Courage is not the absence of fear but the refusal to be controlled by it. The mind that bows to fear is a mind that will remain confined, hesitant, and small. But the mind that sees fear for what it is, an emotion, a passing sensation, a product of thought, understands that it has no real power unless granted permission. The moment you stop yielding to fear, you unlock potential that was previously hidden beneath layers of hesitation. You begin to act decisively, to take risks with confidence, to move forward without waiting for certainty. You recognize that most limitations are self-imposed and that by choosing boldness over avoidance, you expand your world rather than shrink it. Subscribe only if you want to master the art of controlling men without conflict and keeping them under your influence. Resentment is another heavy chain that many carry without realizing its weight. Someone wrongs them, and instead of releasing the grievance, they hold on to it, replaying the offense over and over in their minds. They believe that their anger is justified, that their bitterness is necessary, that forgiveness is a concession rather than a liberation. But resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. It does not punish the offender. It punishes the one who carries it. It keeps wounds open, prolongs pain, and binds you to the very event you wish to move past. To let go is not to condone. It is to refuse to be burdened by the past. It is to recognize that dwelling in anger is a choice, and that choice prolongs your own suffering. The one who can release resentment, who can acknowledge harm without being consumed by it, is the one who is truly free. Self-mastery is not achieved overnight. It is built, refined, tested. Every moment presents an opportunity to strengthen it. When faced with criticism, when confronted with irritation, when tempted to react rather than respond. Each time you choose patience over frustration, silence over unnecessary argument, wisdom over impulse, you forge a mind that cannot be shaken. It is not about being perfect. It is about being intentional. There will be moments where old habits resurface, where emotion gets the best of you, where you falter. But growth is not measured by never slipping. It is measured by how quickly you recover. The more you practice, the stronger you become. The stronger you become, the less anything external has the power to disturb you. The less you are disturbed, the more you can focus on what truly matters, on living fully, thinking clearly, acting wisely. There is no greater power than the ability to govern yourself. No wealth, no status, no possession is as valuable as inner stability. The world will continue to be unpredictable. People will continue to be flawed. Challenges will continue to arise. But when you have cultivated an unshakable mind, you will move through all of it with a strength that cannot be taken from you. You will no longer be a passive participant in your own life, but a deliberate, steady force. You will no longer be a prisoner to fleeting emotions, but a master of your own existence. This is not a skill reserved for the extraordinary. It is available to anyone willing to practice it. The choice is yours. Comment below. Today, I reclaim control of my mind. I am stoic. Let this be the moment you step into a new way of living, one where no external force has the power to steal your peace, where you rise above every challenge with wisdom, where you are untouchable in the face of adversity. The world will continue as it always has, but you will move through it differently, no longer controlled by it but fully in control of yourself. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most respected emperors of Rome and a profound thinker in the philosophy of Stoicism, understood that the most effective way to deal with anger was not to confront it once it had already taken hold, but to prevent it from arising in the first place. He recognized that once a person is consumed by rage, they relinquish control over their rational faculties, becoming enslaved by impulsive emotions that obscure clear thinking and distort reality. Anger, despite its illusion of power, is not a force of strength but of weakness. It clouds judgment, narrows perception, and leads to reckless actions that often bring destruction rather than resolution. It convinces the individual experiencing it that they are taking decisive action, that they are fighting for what is right, that they are standing their ground against an offense. Yet in truth, anger is nothing more than a self-imposed shackle, an illusion of control that actually results in the loss of true autonomy over one's own mind. Seneca, another eminent Stoic philosopher, referred to anger as a temporary form of insanity. In the moments when fury takes hold, reason is exiled, replaced by a wild, uncontrolled force that drives a person toward regrettable words and irreversible actions. This madness, however fleeting it may be, carries consequences that often last far beyond the moment of rage. A single unguarded remark spoken in frustration can fracture a relationship that took years of trust and shared experiences to build. A rash decision made in a moment of hostility can lead to disastrous repercussions that ripple through one's life, affecting not only the individual but also those around them. The destruction caused by anger is not limited to personal relationships. It has shaped the course of history, fueled wars, toppled leaders, and driven civilizations into chaos. Anger is deceptive. It masquerades as a form of justice, convincing the person who experiences it that they are right to feel enraged, that they are standing against injustice, that their fury is justified. Yet when the fire of anger dies down, what remains is often regret, shame, and a realization that the reaction was out of proportion to the event that triggered it. The origins of anger do not lie in external circumstances, but in the expectations individuals impose upon the world around them. The human mind creates assumptions about how people should behave, how situations should unfold, and how life should progress. When these expectations are shattered, when a friend fails to respond as anticipated, when a colleague does not act with the level of respect one believes they deserve, when life presents unexpected obstacles, anger arises, not because of the event itself, but because reality did not conform to the preconceived narrative that had been constructed. A person does not become furious simply because of an event. They become angry because they believe that event should have unfolded differently. This belief is what fuels resentment, indignation, and frustration. It is not the world that creates anger. It is the mind's attachment to an illusion of control. A fundamental lesson of Stoicism is that while external circumstances cannot always be controlled, the way one interprets and reacts to those circumstances is entirely within their own power. Nothing external has the inherent ability to provoke anger. It is only through internal interpretation that an event is perceived as an offense. If someone hurls an insult, it is not their words that create fury. It is the choice to be offended by them. If one experiences betrayal, It is not the act itself that breeds resentment. It is the expectation that such betrayal should never have occurred. If an individual is treated unfairly, it is not the injustice that sparks rage. It is the belief that fairness was owed to them. These beliefs, these rigid expectations about how life should function, are the very things that grant anger its dominion over the mind. The way to free oneself from the control of anger is not by suppressing it, nor by pretending that it does not exist, but by dismantling the false assumptions that give rise to it in the first place. The world is not obligated to align with personal expectations. People will act according to their own nature, not according to the ideals imposed upon them by others. Challenges, setbacks, and disappointments are not anomalies. They are fundamental aspects of life. The more an individual clings to the illusion that things should always go according to plan, that others should always behave with kindness, that the universe should cater to their desires, the more they will suffer. By relinquishing this illusion, by accepting reality for what it is rather than what one wishes it to be, the primary source of anger is eradicated. Seneca advised that before reacting in anger, one should pause and consider whether their response will lead to a constructive outcome or merely escalate the situation. The immediate gratification of an angry outburst is often followed by regret, as harsh words once spoken cannot be taken back, and destructive actions cannot be undone. A moment of silence, a deep breath, a delay before reacting. These simple practices have the power to change the course of interactions, to prevent irreversible damage, to preserve dignity and self-respect. Anger demands instant action. Wisdom advises patience. The Stoic perspective on anger does not advocate for cold indifference, but for conscious mastery of one's emotions. To feel anger is natural, but to be ruled by it is a choice. A person who is easily provoked, who lashes out at the slightest offense, who reacts without thought, is not in control of themselves. They have surrendered their autonomy to external events, allowing circumstances and other people's actions to dictate their inner state. True power lies not in expressing rage but in remaining unshaken by it. The individual who can maintain composure in the face of provocation, who can observe their emotions without being controlled by them, who can choose a response rather than succumb to impulse, that is the person who possesses true strength. There is no greater display of self-mastery than refusing to be drawn into the chaos of anger. The mind that is trained to remain steady, to interpret insults as mere words, to see setbacks as temporary, to view disappointments as lessons rather than injustices, is a mind that cannot be dominated by external forces. The path to freedom is not found in controlling others or in demanding that life conform to personal expectations, but in mastering oneself. To walk this path requires practice, discipline, and the willingness to relinquish the need to always be right, to always have the last word, to always demand retribution. But the reward is immense. A life of peace, of clarity, of resilience in the face of adversity. The next time anger rises, the choice is clear. One can either allow it to take over, to dictate thoughts and actions, to lead to destruction and regret. Or one can pause, reflect, and ask, is this worth my tranquility? Is this worth surrendering my self-control? Will anger improve this situation, or will it only make it worse? More often than not, the answer will be evident. Anger does not serve, it enslaves. It does not empower, it weakens. The strongest person is not the one who shouts the loudest, who retaliates the quickest, who seeks vengeance at every turn. The strongest person is the one who remains unmoved, who understands that true control is not found in dominating others but in mastering oneself. To be free from anger is not to be emotionless. It is to be liberated. Liberated from the grip of impulse, from the tyranny of external influences, from the illusion that anger provides strength. The Stoic path is not one of suppression but of understanding. It is a path that leads to a life where peace is unshakable, where wisdom guides action, where the mind is a fortress that no insult, no injustice, no unforeseen challenge can breach. It is the path of true power, and it is always within reach, waiting for the one who has the courage to walk it. Love and gratitude possess a profound and transformative ability to neutralize anger, acting as forces that not only shift perception but also redefine emotional responses, allowing a person to escape the cycle of frustration, resentment, and hostility. Anger is often an overpowering emotion that clouds judgment, leads to irrational actions, and creates a psychological prison where negativity festers and grows. Yet, what many fail to realize is that anger, no matter how intense, is a state of mind that can be controlled, shaped, and even replaced by emotions that serve a higher purpose. Love and gratitude are not merely passive feelings but powerful tools that, when consciously cultivated, have the ability to dismantle even the most deeply rooted rage. The human mind cannot entertain two conflicting emotional states simultaneously. Just as a dark room is immediately illuminated when a light is introduced, gratitude has the power to dissolve the darkness of anger in an instant. The next time frustration begins to rise within you, pause for a moment before allowing it to take hold. Instead of fixating on the source of irritation, redirect your focus toward gratitude. Identify 3 things, no matter how minor, that you can appreciate in that moment. It could be as simple as having clean water to drink, a comfortable place to rest, or the ability to read and expand your mind. The practice of gratitude shifts attention away from what is missing, unfair, or frustrating and places it on what is present, fulfilling and valuable. This simple shift in focus has the potential to change not only an individual moment but an entire life philosophy. It is not about denying or suppressing emotions but about learning how to navigate them with wisdom and intention. When practiced regularly, gratitude becomes a default response, gradually weakening the grip of anger and strengthening a sense of inner peace. At the root of much of the anger people experience lies the ego, an aspect of the self that craves validation, recognition, and special treatment. When individuals believe they deserve a certain level of respect, attention, or fairness, they become highly vulnerable to disappointment and frustration. The reality is that the world does not revolve around personal expectations, nor do others act in ways designed to accommodate individual desires. People behave based on their own experiences, emotions, fears, and motivations. An individual who speaks harshly may be carrying personal pain. Someone who dismisses you might be lost in their own preoccupations. A person who insults you could be projecting their inner struggles onto others. By internalizing this truth, you begin to realize that most offenses are not truly personal, but rather reflections of the other person's internal state. When you accept that people act from their own perspectives rather than in response to you, the weight of taking things personally begins to lift. This shift in understanding is liberating. It grants the ability to step back in moments of emotional turmoil and analyze situations with clarity. No longer does one have to be at the mercy of every perceived slight or momentary irritation. Instead, there is an awareness that reactions are a choice, and with that choice comes immense power. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher and Roman emperor, emphasized that external events do not disturb people. It is their interpretation of those events that creates suffering. A harsh word is simply sound traveling through air. A rude gesture is merely a physical motion. A betrayal, while painful, is an action that exists independently of one's inner world. The moment an individual assigns meaning to these events and internalizes them, suffering begins. True strength is not found in lashing out or seeking revenge but in maintaining composure, exercising restraint, and choosing wisdom over impulsivity. Many people mistakenly equate power with aggression, believing that dominance, confrontation, or forceful assertion of one's position is the key to respect. However, the most formidable individuals are not those who react impulsively, but those who master their emotions and remain unshaken in the face of provocation. The ability to stay calm under pressure, to rise above petty conflicts, and to refuse to be pulled into unnecessary battles is a mark of true power. Reacting angrily to every insult or injustice is a sign of weakness because it demonstrates a lack of control over one's own mind. The individual who can remain composed, who can pause before responding, who can choose their words and actions with precision, is the one who commands true authority. Not everything in life is deserving of a reaction. The modern world presents countless opportunities to be offended, to argue, to engage in unnecessary conflicts. From social media disputes to workplace disagreements, from political debates to interpersonal misunderstandings, people often waste enormous amounts of energy on issues that, in the grand scheme of things, are insignificant. Before reacting to something that angers you, ask yourself whether it truly matters. Will this still be relevant in a week, a month, a year? If the answer is no, then why sacrifice inner peace for it? Imagine carrying a heavy backpack, where each reaction to an insignificant annoyance adds weight. Over time, this burden becomes overwhelming, slowing progress and draining emotional energy. Letting go of unnecessary anger is like removing those heavy stones. It brings relief, lightness, and the ability to move forward unencumbered. Emotional resilience is cultivated through intentional practice. Instead of perceiving anger as something beyond control, recognize it as a temporary state of mind that can be reshaped. External circumstances may not always be within one's power to change, but the response to them always is. This realization redefines what it means to be in control. Rather than being a reactive participant in life, dictated by the actions of others, one becomes an independent force, guided by reason rather than impulse. This does not mean ignoring injustices or passively accepting mistreatment, but rather choosing to respond in a way that aligns with long-term well-being rather than momentary emotions. A powerful method for achieving this level of self-mastery is negative visualization, a practice used by the Stoics in which one imagines the loss of what is taken for granted. If frustration arises over an interaction, envision life without that person entirely. If impatience grows in a difficult moment, picture a scenario far worse than the current one. This exercise is not meant to induce sorrow but to provide perspective, a reminder that much of what causes anger is trivial when viewed from a broader lens. Gratitude becomes easier when one realizes that even the frustrations of life are privileges in disguise. Another effective strategy is journaling, which offers an outlet for emotions and allows for a deeper examination of personal reactions. Writing down what angers you forces an analytical approach, often revealing that many grievances are rooted in misinterpretations, unrealistic expectations, or issues that, when put into words, lose their power. Over time, this practice creates a habit of self-awareness, making impulsive reactions less frequent and rational responses more natural. Breathing techniques and mindfulness exercises provide another pathway to emotional control. When anger arises, taking slow, deep breaths interrupts the automatic reaction cycle, creating a space between stimulus and response. This moment of pause allows for a more deliberate choice in action, training the mind to return to the present moment, rather than being consumed by past grievances or future anxieties, fosters a state of equanimity that strengthens with time. As these habits are developed, a noticeable transformation occurs. Frustrations that once seemed unbearable become insignificant. The need to prove oneself through conflict diminishes. The ability to remain calm, unaffected by external chaos, becomes second nature. The same situations that once provoked intense reactions are now met with indifference, clarity, and wisdom. Ultimately, anger is an emotion that can either control or be controlled. Life will always present moments that test patience, interactions that challenge composure, and events that stir emotions. But within every situation lies a choice, to react impulsively or to respond with awareness. Anger is fleeting, but the ability to rise above it endures. The strongest individual is not the one who fights every battle, but the one who chooses which battles are worth fighting. True freedom is not found in seeking to control the external world, but in mastering the internal one. Epictetus, one of the greatest minds of Stoic philosophy, imparted a lesson of immeasurable value, one that continues to resonate through the centuries with unparalleled relevance. The opinions of others should never have dominion over us. It is a fundamental truth that external judgments, praise, and condemnation exist entirely outside our control, and because of that, they should not have the power to dictate our self-worth, influence our peace of mind, or determine the course of our emotions. What someone thinks, believes, or says about you is merely a reflection of their own perspective, colored by their biases, experiences, and emotional states. Their words do not define you. Their assessments do not alter the essence of who you are. A person may criticize you with venomous words, yet you remain unchanged. Another may praise you with overflowing admiration, yet you do not suddenly become a better person. These external fluctuations in perception do not alter your inner being unless you surrender your sovereignty to them. The tragedy is that many people live as captives to the shifting opinions of those around them, placing their sense of self-worth in the fragile hands of an unpredictable and ever-changing world. They mold their behaviors, words, and even thoughts to gain the approval of others, fearing rejection as if it were the ultimate doom. Yet, what they fail to see is that by doing so, they are constructing their identity upon a foundation as unstable as sand. The validation of the masses is fickle. One day, you may be celebrated, admired, lifted upon a pedestal. The next, you may be scorned, ridiculed, cast aside without a second thought. If your happiness, confidence, and sense of self depend on something so fleeting, you will forever live in fear of losing it. The need for external affirmation becomes a form of enslavement, an invisible chain that binds you to the whims of those whose opinions shift like the direction of the wind. To break free from this trap, one must cultivate an unshakable inner fortitude, a self-possession that does not waver in the face of public opinion. The goal is not to dismiss all external input but to develop discernment, to recognize what is worth consideration and what is mere noise. Constructive feedback, when given with wisdom and sincerity, can be a tool for growth. But idle criticism, driven by envy, malice, or ignorance, serves no purpose other than to distract you from your path. Praise can be just as dangerous as condemnation if you allow it to define you. If you believe you are great only because others say so, you become dependent on their approval, and the moment that approval is withdrawn, you crumble. True strength comes from within. It is the ability to remain grounded, steady, and indifferent to the ever-changing voices of the world. You must remind yourself constantly, you are not their words. You are not their judgments. You are not their praise nor their scorn. You exist independently of their perceptions. The moment you realize this, you reclaim your power. Bitterness and resentment are among the heaviest burdens a person can carry, yet many willingly cling to them, believing that by doing so, they are exacting some form of retribution against those who have wronged them. But in reality, the only person who suffers under the weight of these emotions is the one who refuses to let go. Anger and hatred do not punish the offender. They consume the one who harbors them. The more you nurture grievances, the more they take root in your mind, distorting your perception, draining your energy, poisoning your spirit. Every moment spent reliving an old betrayal is a moment stolen from your present peace. Every thought devoted to resentment is a thought that could have been used for something greater. The past cannot be undone. No amount of rage, no depth of grudge, no persistent bitterness will change what has already occurred. And yet, many choose to imprison themselves in their own suffering, keeping their wounds open as if doing so grants them some form of power. Marcus Aurelius, a philosopher and emperor whose wisdom remains timeless, observed that the most profound vengeance is refusing to become like those who have inflicted harm upon us. If someone has betrayed you, and in response you adopt deceit as a weapon, then you have allowed them to shape your character. If someone has acted with cruelty, and in retaliation you become cruel, then you have let them dictate the nature of your being. The true act of strength is to transcend the actions of those who seek to harm you, to remain steadfast in your own principles, uncorrupted by their influence. To forgive is not to condone wrongdoing. It is not an act of submission, nor does it require reconciliation with those who have caused you harm. Rather, it is an act of liberation. It is a conscious choice to release the burden of animosity and free yourself from the mental chains that resentment creates. Many resist this idea because they believe that letting go means allowing the other person to win. But in truth, the only victory lies in reclaiming your peace, in refusing to let the past dictate your present, in severing the invisible thread that keeps you bound to a pain that no longer serves you. The ability to master one's emotions is a skill possessed by few yet envied by many. The common person is a slave to impulse, reacting instantly to every slight, every provocation, every perceived insult. When they feel attacked, they lash out. When they feel disrespected, they retaliate. When something irritates them, they allow their irritation to dictate their actions. But such reactivity is not a sign of strength. It is a sign of weakness. It demonstrates a lack of control, an inability to rule over one's own mind. The wise, on the other hand, understand the immense power of restraint. They do not allow fleeting emotions to determine their decisions. They do not grant every provocation the privilege of their attention. They recognize that most offenses are insignificant, that most words spoken in anger are hollow, that most conflicts arise not from genuine malice but from misunderstanding and poor impulse control. Seneca, another great Stoic thinker, observed that time is the ultimate filter for emotions. What seems unbearable in the heat of the moment often becomes trivial in retrospect. A single insult, an argument, a perceived slight. How many times have these things seemed monumental in the moment, only to fade into irrelevance days later? When faced with provocation, the unwise react immediately, allowing anger to dictate their response. The wise, however, pause. They breathe. They allow space between stimulus and reaction, understanding that what feels urgent now may not even matter tomorrow. This ability to delay reaction is a profound form of self-mastery. It is the difference between being ruled by emotions and ruling over them. Imagine your mind as a fortress, a stronghold that should not be left open to every passing influence. Most people leave the gates wide open, allowing every opinion, every insult, every passing comment to flood in and dictate their emotions. But to be truly free, you must guard your mind with vigilance. Not every word deserves a response. Not every battle is worth fighting. Not every fleeting feeling should be acted upon. Imagine how much energy is wasted in unnecessary arguments, in reacting to trivial provocations, in allowing external events to dictate one's inner state. Now imagine how much stronger you could be if, instead of surrendering to these distractions, you remained composed, unmoved, indifferent to the noise of the world. Epictetus taught that we have control over only one thing: our own minds. Everything else, what others say, what they do, what fate delivers, is beyond our influence. We cannot dictate how people will act, nor can we control what they think of us. But we can control our interpretations, our responses, our decisions. The moment you internalize this, you become untouchable. No longer do you chase validation. No longer do you fear disapproval. No longer do you allow the trivialities of the world to disturb your peace. The world will continue to speak, to judge, to provoke, but you will remain unmoved, knowing that true power lies not in dominating others, but in absolute mastery over yourself. Your energy is one of the most valuable and finite resources you possess. Unlike material wealth, which can be accumulated and lost, or time, which moves forward regardless of how you choose to use it, your mental and emotional reserves are delicate and require careful stewardship. Yet, too often, people squander them carelessly, allowing themselves to be drained by situations and individuals unworthy of their attention. They permit fleeting frustrations, petty conflicts, and uncontrollable circumstances to dictate their emotional state, surrendering their inner balance to forces beyond their command. A woman who embraces Stoicism comprehends that true power is not found in reacting impulsively to every disturbance, nor in attempting to micromanage every unpredictable element of life, but in maintaining an unshakable sense of equilibrium amidst chaos. She does not allow minor inconveniences to hijack her composure, nor does she waste precious moments ruminating on events that hold no significance in the grand scheme of her existence. Instead, she channels her energy deliberately, directing her focus toward matters of substance, preserving her tranquility, and exercising discernment in how she expends her mental and emotional capital. It is effortless to remain at peace when circumstances unfold smoothly, when expectations align with reality, when there are no provocations testing the boundaries of one's patience. But the true test of character does not arise in moments of comfort. It manifests in times of adversity, in encounters with difficult individuals, in unexpected challenges that demand restraint and fortitude. Life is an intricate interplay of the predictable and the unforeseen, and no matter how meticulously one plans, no matter how disciplined one becomes, there will always be trials that demand self-control. People will behave in disappointing ways. Circumstances will take unexpected turns. Obstacles will emerge without warning. Yet, if one allows every external force to dictate emotional responses, one relinquishes personal authority over their own mind. To live reactively, to be at the mercy of transient frustrations, to allow external events to determine one's peace, is to exist as a passive participant rather than an architect of one's own destiny. A woman who embodies stoicism understands that mastery is not about changing others or manipulating external conditions, but about governing her own perceptions, reactions, and choices. She does not seek validation through confrontation, nor does she waste time engaging in futile disputes that contribute nothing to her growth. Instead, she cultivates the ability to remain unperturbed, to respond with intelligence rather than instinct, and to maintain unwavering clarity even in the midst of uncertainty. When irritation begins to surface, when frustration threatens to cloud perception, when the impulse to retaliate arises, she takes a moment to step back and assess. She recognizes that emotions, however intense in the moment, are ephemeral, that they are nothing more than fleeting impulses that dissipate when left unfueled. The world conditions individuals to equate strength with aggression, to perceive restraint as weakness, to interpret silence as submission. But true resilience is not found in volume, nor in retaliation, nor in overpowering others. It is found in the ability to remain unaffected by what does not deserve attention. Anyone can be provoked. Anyone can react impulsively. Anyone can succumb to anger. But to remain composed in the face of provocation, to maintain logic when others descend into irrationality, to uphold one's dignity when chaos surrounds them, that is power. That is self-mastery. That is what separates those who are controlled by their emotions from those who command them. A woman who embraces stoicism does not expend energy proving herself to others. She does not indulge in meaningless altercations. She does not grant others the power to dictate her mood. She exercises discretion, conserving her energy for pursuits of true significance and disengaging from distractions that offer no value. Consider how much unnecessary distress has permeated your life simply because of misplaced attention. Reflect on how often a trivial inconvenience has overshadowed an entire day. Contemplate the moments when the careless words of others have lingered in your mind, occupying space they do not deserve. Recall the instances in which you allowed frustration to override logic, leading you to react in ways that did not align with your true intentions. Now, envision a life where none of that holds power over you. A life where small annoyances are met with indifference, where provocations fail to elicit a response, where external circumstances no longer possess the ability to disturb your equilibrium. That reality is not only possible but entirely within your reach. It requires no special talent, no extraordinary ability. Only a commitment to discipline, a dedication to training the mind, a conscious choice to govern one's reactions rather than being enslaved by them. A woman who understands this fundamental truth does not fear discomfort. She does not shy away from adversity. She does not waste time lamenting the inevitability of hardship. Instead, she embraces the challenges that arise, viewing them not as threats to her peace but as opportunities to refine her resilience. She knows that tranquility is not found in eliminating difficulties, but in developing the strength to face them without being consumed by them. She does not demand an easier path. She cultivates the ability to navigate the one before her with grace, intelligence, and composure. She refuses to be a prisoner of emotion, choosing instead to be the guardian of her own mind. If you find yourself resonating with this message, take a moment to commit to this philosophy. Declare your intention to reclaim control over your energy, to cultivate a mind that remains undisturbed by external disturbances, to approach life with the wisdom and patience of someone who understands that true power is not in force but in restraint. Comment below. Today I choose mastery over impulse. I reclaim my energy. I am stoic. Because the world will never stop presenting challenges, but you have the ability to decide whether they define you. You have the power to choose your response. You have the strength to dictate the course of your own inner world. Stay unwavering. Stay intentional. Stay resolute. Stay stoic.